Okay, so one thing that we pretty much all record in our home studios is vocals. So today I want to talk about recording a lead vocal. And I'm going to use this microphone right here. This is an Aston Spirit. This is a large diaphragm condenser microphone like the CAD M179. And this is definitely the most expensive microphone I have in the studio at this particular moment. It runs around like $500, but it sounds fantastic. So I'm going to put this up on the stand. Okay, it's a little bit high for me. I'm short. Another thing we're going to want to have this guy. This is a pop filter. You can grab one of these for like 20, 25 bucks. And it gets rid of it. It sort of just blocks the air when you say P's and B's and big, they're called plosives. So you don't get a recording that sounds like you hear a lot of plosives if you watch the previous video with the different types of microphones. When I was talking into the small diaphragm condenser, you really heard a lot of plosives in that. So this pop screen would have prevented much of that. One thing that this microphone has on it is an 80 Hertz high pass filter, which I will engage. Is what a high pass filter does is it just brings down, basically kind of sucks out everything below 80 Hertz. That's not really something you're going to need for a voice, especially if you're in any kind of full arrangement where you have a kick drum and a bass guitar or maybe some synth information going on down there. Let's get this plugged in and running in Pro Tools, and we'll check out what it sounds like. All right, check 1, 2, 3. Here we are. This is kind of a normal distance to be if you want to get a microphone up and get a vocal that's going to sound good every time. This is kind of a nice balance. However, there are a couple of tricks to sort of set your own EQ, and it comes back to mic placement, and this will set up an EQ curve for you without engaging any gear or without engaging any plugins, and that's your distance away from the microphone. Since we're using this in cardioid, there's this thing called the proximity effect. When you get really close, you'll get more low end, and as you get further away, the low end will go away. So if you ever want a vocal that really features the low end of something, just have your vocalist or yourself move a little bit closer to it, and then you'll hear that nice, rich, low-end bump. A lot of times, if it's going to be a crowded mix with bass guitar and kick drum and stuff, this is going to be a little bit too much. Your vocal is going to really interfere with that low-frequency information. But if you want something that sounds real intimate, like you're whispering in the person's ear, maybe you want it really up close and super warm like this, and it can sound really, really cool. Then you have your standard. Then you can also back up a step or two. And you'll lose even a little bit more of the bottom end and have just the top end, the mid-range and the top end remaining. So let's just go ahead and see what actual singing would sound like with these three positions. So our first position, our standard, is going to work for you 99% of the time. Yeah! Yeah! Let's get really close. Yeah! Yeah! Okay, let's back up and get further away. Yeah! Yeah! You know, one application that this is really good for is you do a vocal with your standard distance or with your close distance, And then if you're going to double like a chorus or whatever, you do your double track from back here. So automatically, when that double comes in on the chorus, you're getting a little bit of a brighter sound because that brighter sounding vocal is going to be introduced into the mix. So it's going to give your chorus a lift without you turning anything up, without you adding extra EQ and things like that. It's just a really cool trick. Just do a double track and move back from the microphone. Okay, now let's engage this high pass filter. And this one on this microphone is set at 80 Hertz. So far we've been doing this without a high pass filter. So let's turn it on. Okay, and you're not going to hear a huge difference here, but what's gone away is sort of that very low end rumble. In fact, let's do this. I turned it back off. I'm going to kind of shake the mic stand a little bit. Hear that? Put the high pass filter back on. Now we're filtering out everything below 80 Hertz. Should sound just a little bit less thuddy and boomy and nasty. You can pretty much, if you're tracking vocals, especially if you're doing a full band arrangement, you're going to want to high pass your vocal anyway. A lot of times you're going to want to high pass your vocal higher than 80 Hertz. So it certainly is not going to hurt you to record your vocal with that high pass filter engaged and take one more small responsibility off of the processing power of your computer and just leave it to the microphone, or if you have an external mic preamp that has a high pass filter. There's really nothing in the vast majority of voices below 80 Hertz that is pleasant to listen to. So don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to commit to it. And if you go back and you say, oh man, I feel like I'm really missing some rich low end. I have a friend who's a singer who has a very sort of deep sounding baritone voice. And I will try it with him. And sometimes I'll use the high pass filter and sometimes I won't track with it, so I can be a little bit more surgical with it on a plugin. But for 99% of what you're likely to do, go ahead and track with the high pass filter engaged and save your computer for doing one more process that you're pretty much guaranteed to do anyway. May as well track it closer to the way you want it, like what I've been preaching this whole time. All right, so that's kind of some different pointers for recording vocals. You can do it in a booth, especially like if your room is not kind of dead, if it's really reflective. This room is kind of deadish. There's not a lot of reflection going on, surprisingly, especially like it right here in the room. But you might want to look into a vocal booth or like a portable vocal booth if your room is really reflective. You're in cardioid, so that's not as bad, but just kind of be aware of that, especially when you're doing your vocals from back here, because the further you get away from the microphone, the more of your room you're going to capture. Chances are you're going to have to turn up that mic pre a little bit when you're back further, and you're going to capture more of your room. So hope this helps in your recording of lead vocals. Don't be afraid. The whole idea is don't be afraid to try different things. Try singing right here. And if you're like, I just want a little bit more bottom end, a little bump in the bottom, get a little bit closer, right? Or you start off a little bit closer. You think you want that bump in the bottom. You listen back to it and you're like, that sounds actually kind of terrible with the rest of the instruments. Back up here. You want to get some hype into that chorus, take a step back, and you get some extra top end without the low end interfering, and you get some extra hype in that chorus. Those are all different things that you can try and experiment with. And I would encourage you, when you're getting ready to track your vocals, to just go ahead and record like the first verse and the first chorus, rather than do the whole song, just so you get a feel for the microphone. Are you using the right mic? Does it already kind of sit in the mix that you have going on with the rest of your instruments? Are you the proper distance away from it? Are you using it correctly? Does it sound better with the high pass filter engaged or not engaged? So on and so forth. So rather than sing the whole song and then be like, man, that was a really great take, and I just don't like the distance I am away from the microphone. I'm too close, or I'm too far, or whatever. Just do a verse and chorus until you find that exact right sound that you know you're already looking for. Get it as close as you can, and then go ahead and track the whole song. All right, I'm Corey Wilkins from Ears Only Audio. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this helps you record amazing vocals.